Yom Tov, everyone. You are welcome to Biblical Hebrew class. Hi, I'm Dr. Akinola. Today we'll be looking at a series of topics from the articles down to absolute and construct state. And there's a lot of classes we are going to jam, topics we are going to be having together today. And it's going to be a kind of long journey. So I want you to just prepare and be ready as we learn together. As our knowledge of Biblical Hebrew is increasing, it helps us in the study and in inductive Bible and expository studies of the Bible. So I am so glad that you are with me again today. So let's come together as we learn. God bless you. I want to welcome you to class today, to Biblical Hebrew class. The topic we are looking at today is the article. The article. Now, the question is, what is the article? The articles are words like he, han, and thee. So we have two kinds of article. The first type of article is called the indefinite articles. And indefinite articles are a or an. Like you have a man, or an orange, an orange. Those are the indefinite articles. And in Hebrew, you don't have indefinite articles. When you say Melech, which is king, Melech, is either king in translation or a king. So the A of the index is implied already. Is already implied. So you don't have to find a word for a or an in Hebrew because they do not exist. They do not exist. But the word, the definite article exists, and in Hebrew that is hal. Originally it is hal. Hal, which is the. It's a definite article. And so when you want to write, so there are rules that follows when you want to use it. Number one, you also need to remember that the definite articles in Hebrew are inseparable. They are not separated from the words they govern. For example, in English, you say the man. The man. You separate the article and the word it governs. But in Hebrew, you write it together. The man is written together because it cannot be separated. That's the principle of the language in Hebrew, the man. So the word for thee, the article, thee, in Hebrew is first of all, al. So there are ways to apply it to the word it governs. The first one is when it comes to an ordinary letter, you are attaching it to an ordinary letter. For example, you want to say the king. The king. First of all, what you write is hal melech. Al melech. But because two words have been joined together, the lamed drops. And the letter, the lamed that drops has to be compensated for. So you put a dagesh forte inside the preceding word, the word that follows, the word that follows, which is the melech. So it becomes, in the real sense, the king becomes a melech. Melech. But the dagesh forte that compensates for the lamed has to be added. So has to be added to indicate that something has dropped. For example, in Yoruba language, you can have the word soya. Soya, it consists of two words, son, then iya. But when you add it together, the I drops. So it becomes soya as a whole word. But in in Yoruba language, you ignore the I that has dropped, you don't compensate for it. But in Hebrew, it has to be compensated for by a dagesh forte going inside the letter that follows. But this principle is only applicable to ordinary letters. But the next principle has to do with how do you now attach the article D to the letters that start with guttural letters. The first thing is, what are guttural letters? Guttural letters are Aleph, A, Et, and Ayin. Resh also acts like them. We have done guttural letters in the past. So understand the peculiarities of these letters. So any word that begins with any of these 5 letters will not follow the principle enunciated up here. There is something else that occurs when, for example, let's look at and this also has to do with what kind of guttural. Because when you talk of guttural letters, you have weak gutturals and you have strong. So we have Aleph, A, Et, Ayin, then Resh acts like them. But they can be divided into 2. You have the weak gutturals, which are Aleph, Ayin, then Resh acts like them. Then Ash or strong gutturals, which are A and Et. So, when it comes to weak gutturals, for example, let's have a word like light, which is or. This is light. Or. To now say the light, you have first of all add the article D. The lamed drops, but you are not just going to have a kames, because the letter, for example, what you're supposed to have first of all is al or. But we know that that is not possible. Once it is joined together, you drop the resh. According to principle, what we need to do immediately is to add a dagesh forte to the next letter to compensate for the lamed. But for weak gutturals, that is not going to happen, because in the real sense, any of these gutturals cannot admit a dagesh forte because they cannot be doubled. Because once you add a dagesh forte, the letter inside which there is dagesh forte is doubled. But in Hebrew, that is not going to happen. So what we are going to do is that you put the ha, but instead of you putting the pata, you elongate it to make it a kamesh. So you have ahor. The same thing happens when you use the word, or when you use the word that begins the letter ayin or resh. But the principle is only applicable here to weak gutturals. When it comes to arch gutturals, like A and Et, for example, let's have palace, which is a car. To now say the palace, you have first of all, you put lamed, but we said lamed must drop. It drops. Let me put you drop it. You need to put a dagesh forte here, but it is a guttural, I cannot admit it. And at the same time, you don't have to elongate it. So what you just do is simply write the R. Why? Because the elongation or the elonging of making long the kamesh is already implied in the harshness of the guttural itself. It's already applied in the harshness of the guttural itself. So let me just briefly write out what we are saying here once more for you to understand. Let me repeat the principles all over. Let me repeat the principles all over. In summary, when you have ordinary letter like king, Melech, you have Melech. Melech. The king becomes Melech. On inside an ordinary letter. But with a letter that begins with guttural, but with guttural, you have, like for example, let's have something like light, hor. To now say the light, it becomes ha. Because you cannot put a dagesh forte here to make it double, to compensate for the lamed, you elongate the kames. The pata under it to kames. And this is applicable only to weak gutturals. But now when it comes to harsh gutturals, for example, you have a car. You just simply put you return back to ordinary letter principles because the harshness has indicated that the kames, the pata is already long, which is indicated in the harshness of the letter itself. Now, these two principles are important, but apart from that also, where you can also have a divergent where the D is going to be something is going to have a segol instead of pata or kames. This happens when, like a divergent where the articles stand before an unaccented. When you start before a letter with an unaccented ha, that is a and kames, or ani and what? And kames. It changes to what? To segol. It changes to segol. God bless you. Look back at this. Let me just repeat briefly. An article in Hebrew, the have just is inseparable. It's attached to the word it governs. And in Hebrew, we don't have indefinite articles. We only have definite articles, which is al. And when you attach it to the word it governs, the lamed always drops. And you now put, if it follows an ordinary letter, you put a dagesh forte in the letter that follows to double it to compensate for the lamed. But if it comes to the guttural, you just elongate the vowel under it to kames, to a long vowel for a weak guttural. But for the harsh gutturals, it simply remains a pata, and you don't have to compensate by putting a dagesh forte compensative in the letter that follows. Please look at this once more. God bless you. It's been beautiful learning together with you in Biblical Hebrew class. Some of the things we've been taught, you can always begin to put into practice in your academic work, in your Bible studies, and in some other areas that will be useful for you. And so I really appreciate your coming along with me. And we are going higher. Even after this, we still have some other lessons to take. Thus, all you need to do is go back, look at what you've been taught, study all over, and I know you are going to do well with this language. God bless you. Shalom.